Sarah Mitchell's hands were shaking as she placed the ring on the jewelry store counter. It was a simple gold band, no diamonds, no engravings visible from the outside, worth maybe $150 at most, but it was the last thing of value she owned. "Please," Sarah whispered to the man behind the counter. "I know you're closing. I saw you putting up the closed sign, but I'm desperate. I just need enough for food. My daughter hasn't eaten today." The man, expensive suit, salt and pepper hair, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much grief, stared at the ring. Then he picked it up and froze. His hands started trembling. His face went pale. He turned the ring over under the light, examining something Sarah couldn't see. "Where did you get this?" His voice was barely a whisper. Sarah's heart sank. I didn't steal it, I swear. It was given to me 5 years ago. A charity that helps women." "I know." The man looked up, tears forming in his eyes. "I know exactly where you got it." Sarah didn't understand. It was just a simple ring, nothing special. What she didn't know was that the man standing across from her was David Chen, Billionaire, owner of Chen & Hart Fine Jewelry, one of the most prestigious jewelry brands in the country. And 22 years ago, when he was poor and in love, he'd made this exact ring with his own hands for the woman who would become his wife. The woman who had died 3 years ago. The woman who had apparently donated this ring, their first symbol of love, to help women like Sarah. And tonight, on Christmas Eve, in the last hour David would ever spend in this store before selling it and running from his grief, the ring had come back, like a message from beyond.
Before we continue with Sarah's story, if you enjoy tales of unexpected connections, legacy, and the way love transcends death, consider subscribing to Becca's Stories. We share narratives that remind us what truly endures. Now, back to that jewelry counter.
30 minutes earlier, David Chen stood alone in Chen & Hart Fine Jewelry, looking at the empty store that had been his life for the past 15 years. Tomorrow, Christmas Day, the sale would be finalized. New owners would take over. The Chen & Hart name would disappear, replaced by some corporate chain. And David would finally be free of the memories that haunted every corner of this place. Every display case Caroline had designed, every piece she'd sketched, every customer she'd helped with that infectious enthusiasm that made everyone feel like they were buying more than jewelry. They were buying a story. But Caroline had been gone for 3 years. Cancer, fast and merciless. And David couldn't bear to be here anymore. "Mr. Chen?" His manager, Patricia, appeared from the back office. "I've locked up the back. All the staff have left for the holiday. Are you sure you don't want me to stay? It's Christmas Eve. You shouldn't be alone." "I'm fine, Patricia. Go home to your family." "Sir, I just want to say, I'm sorry about the sale. I know how much this place meant to you and Mrs. Chen." David managed a weak smile. "Thank you, but it's time. I can't keep doing this." After Patricia left, David walked slowly through the store, running his hands over display cases. He'd met Caroline here 20 years ago. She'd been a jewelry design student doing an internship. He'd been the owner's nephew, learning the business. They'd fallen in love surrounded by diamonds and gold, but they'd started with nothing. David pulled out an old photo from his wallet. Caroline, at 22, laughing, wearing the simple gold ring he'd made for her in a tiny workshop when he had 3 jobs and big dreams, but no money. That ring had been his promise. "Someday I'll give you diamonds, but right now all I have is this and my love." Caroline had worn that ring proudly for 2 years, until David's jewelry business took off and he could finally afford the elaborate diamond ring she deserved. He'd assumed she'd put the simple gold ring in a drawer somewhere, a sweet memory from when they were young and broke. But now, standing in this store on Christmas Eve, about to walk away from everything they'd built together, David realized he had no idea where that ring had gone. He'd never asked, and now Caroline was gone, and he'd never know. David checked his watch, 9:15 p.m. Time to lock up and leave this place behind forever. He was putting the closed sign on the door when he saw her. A young woman, maybe late 20s, holding the hand of a little girl around 6 years old. Both of them were underdressed for the cold December night. The woman was banging on the glass door, desperation clear on her face. David should have walked away, should have pointed to the closed sign and left. But something about the fear in her eyes, the same fear he'd seen in Caroline's eyes when the doctors told them there was nothing more they could do, made him unlock the door. "We're closed," David said gently, "but what do you need?"
"I need to pawn this," Sarah said, placing the ring on the counter with shaking hands. "I know it's not worth much, but I'm desperate." Behind her, the little girl Emma stood quietly, trying not to cry. David noticed she was too thin. Her coat was threadbare. Her shoes had holes. David looked at Sarah properly for the first time. Dark circles under her eyes. Clothes that had been washed too many times. Hands rough from hard work. "I'm not a pawn shop," David said, not unkindly. "This is a high-end jewelry store. You'd be better served at—" "Please," Sarah's voice broke. "I've tried 3 pawn shops. They're all closed for Christmas Eve. You're the only jewelry store I could find that had lights on. I just need enough for food, for my daughter. I'll pay you back, I swear. I get my assistance check after New Year's. I just need to make it until then." "How much do you need?" $50. Just 50. That's all." $50 for a woman with a hungry child on Christmas Eve. David picked up the ring to appraise it, trying to determine a fair price for something that was clearly worth very little in monetary terms, but everything in desperation terms. The moment he turned it over under the light, his heart stopped. There, on the inside of the band, in letters so small, you needed a jeweler's magnifier to read them clearly. C plus D forever. For the next one, CH 2003. Caroline Hart, her maiden name. 2003, the year he had proposed. This was the ring, the first one, the one he had made himself in that cramped workshop, staying up until 3 a.m. to get the engraving perfect, because he wanted Caroline to know this wasn't just a ring. It was a promise that even if they had nothing else, they had each other. David's hands started shaking so badly he almost dropped the ring. "Sir? Are you okay?" Sarah asked, concerned. "Where did you get this?" David's voice came out strangled. A charity gave it to me 5 years ago." "What charity?" "Hope Harbor? It's a shelter for women escaping domestic violence. I was there after I left my ex-husband. He hurt me. Badly. I had nothing. No money, no family, just my daughter. And this counselor at the shelter, she gave me this ring. Said it was from an anonymous donor who wanted women in my situation to have something of value. Something they could pawn if they needed emergency money. Or keep as a reminder that they were worth something." David could barely breathe. "Did they tell you who donated it?" "No, just that it was a woman who believed in paying kindness forward." "Why? What's wrong?" David looked at the engraving again, vision blurring with tears.
Caroline. His wife had taken their first ring, the symbol of their love when they had nothing, and given it to women who had even less. This ring, David said carefully, was made by hand 22 years ago by a young man who was desperately in love but couldn't afford a real engagement ring. He engraved his and his girlfriend's initials inside, along with a promise that he'd give her diamonds someday. But first, he gave her this. Sarah's eyes widened. Was that you? That was me, and the woman I gave it to was my wife, Caroline Chen. David's voice cracked. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. I thought she'd kept this ring in a drawer somewhere. I had no idea she had donated it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Do you want it back? I shouldn't have. No, David cut her off gently. You should have exactly what Caroline intended. This ring was meant to help women like you. She wanted it to be passed forward. He looked at Emma, who was watching with wide, curious eyes. What's your name, sweetheart? Emma, the girl whispered. Emma, the same name as Caroline's mother. David felt something shift in his chest, like Caroline was speaking to him across the void. Don't run from the memories. Don't sell the store. Don't give up on the legacy we built. This is why we did this, to help people like Sarah and Emma. Sarah, David said slowly, I'm not going to buy this ring from you. Sarah's face crumpled. Please, I'm begging. I'm not buying it because you're keeping it, and I'm giving you $5,000. Sarah stared at him like he'd spoken another language. What? My wife gave you this ring because she believed you were worth helping. I'm going to honor that. Consider this an early Christmas gift from Caroline Chen, who apparently was still changing lives 3 years after her death.
David stood in a cramped jewelry workshop at 2 a.m., carefully engraving letters inside a simple gold band. C. Thus D. Forever. He paused, then added, for the next one. Because this ring wasn't forever. This ring was just the beginning, a placeholder until he could afford to give Caroline the diamonds she deserved. But even though it was simple, David poured everything he had into making it perfect. Every curve, every polish, every letter of that engraving. 2 weeks later, he proposed to Caroline in a park at sunset. She said yes before he even finished asking. It's perfect, Caroline said, admiring the ring. I don't need diamonds, David. I just need you. You're getting diamonds anyway. Someday, when my business takes off, I promise. Caroline kissed him. Then this ring will be my reminder of where we started, of what really matters. 5 years later, David's jewelry business had exploded. Chen & Hart Fine Jewelry had 3 locations and was expanding. He finally bought Caroline the engagement ring he'd always dreamed of giving her. A 3-carat diamond in a platinum setting, custom designed, worth more than their first year of rent. It's beautiful, Caroline breathed, trying it on. So what do we do with the original? David asked, gesturing to the simple gold band. Caroline was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. I have an idea, but it's a secret. What kind of secret? The good kind. Trust me. David never asked again. He assumed Caroline had put it in a safe deposit box or a drawer, a keepsake from their early days. 10 years later, David came home to find Caroline crying at the kitchen table, reading something on her laptop. What's wrong? This woman. She's at Hope Harbor, the domestic violence shelter I volunteer at. She just escaped her husband with her baby daughter.
has nothing, no money, no family, and she's so ashamed because she can't even afford diapers. So help her. We have money now. We can donate. I am helping, but I want to do something more. Caroline pulled out the original gold ring from her jewelry box. I want to give her this. David stared. That's our ring, the first one I gave you. I know, and that's exactly why it's perfect. When you gave me this ring, we had nothing, but we had hope, we had each other, we had love. I want women like her to have something that represents that reminds them they're not worthless just because they're poor or scared or running. But it's irreplaceable. Exactly, which is why it should keep going, keep helping, keep reminding people that love and hope are more valuable than diamonds. David understood. Okay, but on one condition. What? We add something to the engraving, so whoever gets it knows to pass it forward. Together, they added to the inside of the ring, for the next one. For the next 15 years, Caroline quietly built a program at Hope Harbor. Women in crisis received the ring with instructions, keep it as long as you need it. When you're back on your feet, pass it to the next woman who needs hope. Caroline never told David how many women the ring had helped. She just smiled whenever he asked and said, "It's still out there, changing lives." David stood in his store, holding the ring that had traveled through the hands of dozens of women, each one fighting for survival, each one borrowing hope from Caroline's original gift of love. And now it was back, not by accident, but because Caroline's legacy outlived her.
Sarah stared at the check David had just written. $5,000. "I can't accept this," she whispered. "It's too much. I don't even know you." "But my wife knew you. Or at least she knew women like you, and she wanted to help." David sat down across from Sarah. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you received this ring 5 years ago, what did it mean to you?" Sarah looked at the ring in her palm. "Everything. The counselor who gave it to me said it was from a woman who'd been through hard times and wanted to help others. She said the ring was worth a few $100s if I needed to pawn it for emergency money. But more than that, it was proof that I was worth saving. That I wasn't garbage just because my husband said I was." Her voice cracked. "I wore it every day for 3 years. It was my wedding ring, even though I'd never really been married in any way that mattered. It represented the life I wanted to build for Emma, the hope that someday we'd be okay." "So why are you pawning it now?" "Because we're not okay." Sarah's shoulders slumped. "I've been working 2 jobs, but my car broke down and I can't afford to fix it. I lost one job because I couldn't get there. The other job cut my hours for the holidays. My rent is due in 3 days. I applied for emergency assistance, but they won't process it until after New Year's. I'm out of options." She looked at Emma, who was sitting quietly in a chair by the door, trying to be invisible. "My daughter hasn't eaten today. I chose rent over food because I thought I could make it work, but I can't. So I'm pawning the one thing I promised myself I'd never give up." David felt his heart breaking. This was exactly the kind of situation Caroline had wanted to prevent. "Sarah, I want to make you an offer, and I need you to hear me out before you say no." "Okay." "The sale of this store was supposed to finalize tomorrow. I was planning to walk away from the jewelry business entirely. Too many memories of my wife, too painful to be here." He looked around the store. "But tonight, finding out that Caroline secretly used our first ring to help dozens of women like you, I realize I've been thinking about this all wrong. Caroline didn't build this business just to sell jewelry. She built it to create beauty and meaning in people's lives. And that legacy doesn't die just because she did."
He pulled out his phone and sent a quick email. I just told the buyers the sale is off. I'm keeping this store, and I'm expanding Caroline's legacy. Sarah's eyes widened. What do you mean? I'm creating a foundation, the Caroline Chen Foundation for Women in Crisis. We'll partner with Hope Harbor and other shelters to provide not just rings, but real support. Emergency funds, job training, childcare assistance, everything women like you need to rebuild. That's incredible, but I still don't understand what that has to do with me. I need someone to run it, someone who understands what it's like to be desperate, someone who's lived through it and survived, someone Caroline's ring helped. David met Sarah's eyes. I want to hire you. Full-time position, salary $60,000 a year to start, health benefits, childcare stipend. You'd help other women the way Caroline helped you. Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I know you don't have nonprofit experience, but I can teach you that. What I can't teach is empathy, understanding, the ability to see women in crisis and know exactly what they need because you've been there. That's invaluable. Why are you doing this? Sarah asked, tears streaming down her face. Because 3 hours ago, I was ready to give up on everything my wife and I built together. I was selling the store and running from my grief. But you walked in with that ring, Caroline's ring, and reminded me that grief isn't just about loss. It's about legacy, about what we do with the love we were given. David smiled through his own tears. Caroline's been gone for 3 years, but tonight she saved me, through you, through that ring, through the reminder that the best way to honor someone you love isn't to bury their memory, it's to continue their work.
March 15th. Sarah sat in her new office at the Caroline Chen Foundation, reviewing applications from women seeking emergency assistance. 3 months ago, she'd been pawning her wedding ring to buy food for her daughter. Now she was helping hundreds of women in similar situations. The foundation had grown faster than anyone expected. David had donated $2 million of seed money. Other philanthropists, moved by Caroline's story, had contributed another $3 million. They'd partnered with 15 shelters across the state, set up emergency funds, created job training programs, provided childcare grants. And at the center of it all was Caroline's ring. They'd created replicas, hundreds of them, each engraved with "For the Next One." Women in crisis received them, along with information about the foundation. Some kept them as reminders of hope. Others pawned them when desperate, knowing there was no shame in survival. "Sarah?" David appeared in her doorway. "There's someone here to see you." A young woman, maybe 25, stood nervously in the reception area. She was holding something in her hand. "Hi," the woman said. "My name is Jessica. I received this ring 6 years ago from Hope Harbor. I just wanted to return it. I'm back on my feet now. Good job. Safe apartment. And I thought, maybe someone else needs it." She held out a simple gold band. The original, Caroline's ring. Sarah took it carefully, checking the engraving inside. C+D forever. For the next one. CH, 2003. "Thank you for returning it," Sarah said gently. "But the program has changed. You get to keep this ring. It's yours. A reminder of where you've been and how far you've come." "Really? Really?" Caroline Chen gave this ring away because she believed in paying kindness forward. You've done that by getting back on your feet, by being strong, by not giving up. That's the whole point. Jessica hugged the ring to her chest, crying, "Thank you. Thank you so much." After she left, David turned to Sarah. "That was beautiful." "I learned from the best," Sarah said, gesturing to a photo of Caroline on the wall. "Your wife had this all figured out. She knew that giving people something physical, something they could hold and see,
made hope real. She was smarter than me. David looked at Caroline's photo. I was so focused on diamonds and luxury, but she understood that the most valuable thing we can give someone is belief in themselves. Sarah pulled out a small box. Actually, I wanted to show you something. Inside was a new ring design. Simple gold band, but on the outside, embossed in tiny letters, Hope Anchors. I designed it based on Caroline's original. We're making them for every woman who goes through our program, not to pawn, to keep, as a permanent reminder. David felt tears welling up. She would have loved this. I hope so, because none of this would exist without her. The foundation, the programs, me standing here in this office instead of living in my car with my daughter. Sarah smiled. Your wife saved my life twice, once with that ring 5 years ago, and once again by bringing me to you 3 months ago.
December 23rd, 1 year after Sarah had walked into Chen and Hart Fine Jewelry with Caroline's ring. The foundation was hosting its first annual gala, but this wasn't like other charity events. Instead of wealthy donors in tuxedos, the ballroom was filled with the women the foundation had helped. Former shelter residents who now had jobs and homes, single mothers who'd rebuilt their lives, survivors who'd become thrivers. Sarah stood at the podium, wearing the original Caroline Chen ring on a chain around her neck. A year ago tonight, Sarah began, I walked into a jewelry store on Christmas Eve, desperate to pawn this ring for $50 so I could buy food for my daughter. I thought it was just a simple gold band. I had no idea it carried the legacy of a woman named Caroline Chen, who'd secretly helped dozens of women like me by passing forward the first engagement ring her husband ever gave her. She held up the ring so everyone could see. The man behind the counter that night was David Chen, Caroline's widowed husband, billionaire owner of the jewelry store. He could have bought this ring for $50 and sent me on my way. Instead, he gave me $5,000. And then he gave me something more valuable, a job, a purpose, a chance to help others the way Caroline had helped me. Sarah gestured to the women in the audience. This past year, the Caroline Chen Foundation has helped 347 women in crisis. We've provided $1.2 million in emergency funds. We've placed 156 women in jobs. We've supported 89 women through job training programs. We've given childcare assistance to 203 single mothers. The room erupted in applause. But more than the numbers, Sarah continued, we've given something Caroline understood was priceless: hope. The knowledge that you're not invisible, that you matter, that your struggles don't define your worth. She looked at David, who was sitting in the front row with Emma beside him. Over the past year, David and Emma had become close. He'd become a grandfather figure to her, teaching her about jewelry design and letting her hang out in the store after school. Caroline Chen never met me. She died 3 years before I walked into that store, but her legacy saved my life. And tonight, we're honoring that legacy by committing to help 500 more women next year. After the speeches, David found Sarah in a quiet corner. Caroline would be so proud of you, he said. I'm proud of her and grateful to her. Sarah touched the ring around her neck. Do you want this back? I know it's irreplaceable. No, you keep it. That ring has helped more people by traveling than it ever would have sitting in my safe. Besides, I have something better now. He pulled out his phone and showed Sarah a photo. Caroline, young and laughing, wearing the original ring. Memories can't be pawned, can't be stolen, can't be lost. They're mine forever. The ring was just metal. The love it represented, that's what matters. And that love is still here, helping people through you.
5 years later. Emma was 11 now, thriving in school, confident, happy, still wearing the Hope Anchors ring Sarah had given her when she turned 10. Today, she was at Chen and Hart Fine Jewelry, after school, doing homework at the counter while David worked on a custom design. "Mr. David," Emma asked, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When I grow up, I want to work for the foundation, like my mom, helping people." David smiled. "That's a beautiful goal. But I also like jewelry. I like designing. And I was thinking, what if I could do both?" "What do you mean?" Emma pulled out a sketch she'd been working on, a necklace designed with interlocking rings. "See, each ring represents a different woman. They're all connected, supporting each other. And in the center, there's a little anchor for hope." David studied the design. It was good, really good. Raw, but with potential. "Emma, this is incredible." "Really? Really? You have your mother's heart and Caroline's eye for meaning. That's a powerful combination." Emma beamed. "So, do you think maybe someday I could work here, learn jewelry design, and create pieces that help fund the foundation?" David felt something unlock in his chest, a sense of rightness, of Caroline's legacy extending into the future through this child who'd walked into his store 5 years ago, wearing a threadbare coat and holding her mother's hand. "Emma, I think that's exactly what Caroline would want. Art with purpose, beauty that changes lives. Can I start learning now?" "You already are. That design, we're going to make it, and we're going to sell it, and 100% of proceeds go to the foundation." Emma hugged David tight. "Thank you for saving us, you and Mrs. Caroline." "You saved me, Emma. You and your mom reminded me why Caroline and I started this business, not for money, for meaning."
David stood in Chen and Hart Fine Jewelry at 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve. But this time, he wasn't alone, and he wasn't closing for the last time. Sarah was there, with Emma, now a teenager, apprenticing as a jewelry designer while attending college for nonprofit management. The foundation had helped over 2,000 women. The Hope Anchors necklace Emma had designed as an 11-year-old had become their signature piece, raising over $500,000 for the foundation. And tonight, like every Christmas Eve for the past 6 years, they were hosting an open house for foundation recipients. Hot chocolate, cookies, a chance for women to share their stories and celebrate how far they'd come. 6 years ago, David said to the gathered crowd, a desperate mother walked through that door with a ring she planned to pawn for $50. What she didn't know was that the ring carried my wife's legacy. What I didn't know was that this mother would help me understand what Caroline had been trying to teach me all along. He looked at Sarah and Emma. Legacy isn't about buildings or businesses or how much money you make. It's about the lives you touch, the kindness you pass forward, the hope you give to people who've forgotten what hope looks like. David held up a photo of Caroline. My wife died 6 years ago, but she's still here, in this ring that's traveled through dozens of hands, in the foundation that bears her name, in the 2,000 women who've been helped, in Emma who's designing jewelry that funds that help, in all of you. He looked directly at Sarah, and she's here in the woman who walked into my store on the worst night of her life and reminded me that running from grief doesn't honor the people we've lost. Continuing their work does. After the event, after everyone had left, David stood alone in the store one more time. But this time, he didn't feel haunted by Caroline's absence. He felt surrounded by her presence. In every woman the foundation had helped, in every piece of Hope Anchors jewelry sold, in every life changed because a young couple in love had once made a simple gold ring and promised to pass kindness forward. David pulled out his own wedding ring and looked at the engraving Caroline had added years ago,
Forever isn't just until death. It's what we leave behind. You were right, Caroline. You're still here, still changing lives, still teaching me what matters. Outside, snow began to fall. Christmas Eve, the anniversary of the night everything changed. The night a ring came home and brought hope with it.
A simple gold ring, made by hand 22 years ago by a young man who had more love than money. That ring traveled through the hands of dozens of women, each one desperate, each one fighting to survive, each one borrowing hope from a stranger's gift of kindness. And when it came back 6 years ago on Christmas Eve, it brought with it a message. Legacy isn't what we keep, it's what we give away. David Chen thought his wife's death had ended their story, but really, it had just begun a new chapter. One written by every woman helped by Caroline's foundation. Every child fed because a mother had emergency funds. Every life rebuilt because someone believed they were worth saving. This Christmas, maybe you're holding on to something precious, something you're afraid to lose, something that represents your past. Consider this. The most powerful legacy isn't what we bury in safe deposit boxes or hang on to tightly. It's what we release into the world to help others. Caroline's ring helped more people by traveling than it ever would have sitting in a drawer. Your gifts, whatever they are, might do the same. Pass them forward. Let them travel. Trust that they'll come back when you need the reminder of why you gave them away in the first place. Because love doesn't die when people do. It just finds new hands to hold, new hearts to fill, new lives to change. And sometimes, on Christmas Eve, it comes home.